Good morning, everyone. I'm Morgan Mitty, your 2019-2020 MarCom President. Welcome to our first ever virtual breakfast event.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I'm Cody Hansen, your next year's MarCom President. Today we're excited to bring together Rogue Heart Media, who was this year's Blaze Award winner, Spokane Coeur Living, who was this year's Kindling Award winner, and BHW1, along with Hamilton Studio, who were this year's Dussault Award winners. Be sure to take notes as we hear about these three exceptional campaigns. And don't worry, if you missed something, we'll open up for Q&A at the end of each presentation.
Now, before we dive in, this is MarCom, and we want to give a huge shout out to today's very important sponsors. And also, we are going to be doing a quick round of introductions per tradition. First, we want to thank Hamilton Studio. Without them, this event simply wouldn't have happened. So thank you. And thank you also to our venue sponsor, Gonzaga University School of Leadership Studies. We appreciate all of your ongoing support. And last, but certainly not least, a big thank you to our bacon sponsor, MAM, who has been really generous in supplying all of our bacon this year, except of course, today, where you virtually will get to cook your own bacon from home. So, side note, if you are sizzling bacon in the background, please put yourself on mute so we don't need to get very jealous about your sizzling. And finally, just a quick thank you to everyone who attended this year's virtual Spark Awards. We hope you all had a great time. In case you missed it, it is on YouTube. We have an awesome community, and the whole point of today is we're going to be introducing the winners of some of our biggest Spark Awards this year. So before we dive into that, however, let's get a little bit interesting here as we do a virtual version of our open mics. So what I'm gonna do, Cody, is I'll just say, hi, I'm Morgan, MarCom President, hand it to you, and then we'll go down the screen on Zoom. So okay. Morgan Mitty, I'm with JEB Commerce and your MarCom 2020 President.
How's it going? Oh, I'm Cody Hansen. So I am the Digital Marketing Specialist for Multicare, and I'm also the Program Chair this year and will be the incoming President for next year.
Well, I'll jump in here. I'm Don Hamilton, and this is my wife and partner, Lorna St. John, and we're delighted to have you all as guests in our studio today.
Virtual applause for that.
Okay.
I'm sure everyone's Zoom is in a different order, so I'll jump in next.
This is where it's going to get interesting, Greta.
Yeah. I'm Greta Carlson, the MarCom Communications Chair with Rogue Heart Media. Excited to be here and talk to you all today.
Good morning, I'll jump in too. My name is Kat Tracek. I am Spokane MarCom's Sponsorship Chair, and I am freelance marketing with Northwest Media Partners.
I'll jump in. I'm May Camito. I'm with Northern Quest and MarCom's Internship Chair.
Good morning, I'll hop in. I'm Stephanie Regalado. I'm the Editor-in-Chief of Spokane Coeur Living magazine.
Hi there, I'm not Brad Snow. I'm Yvonne Lucero with Banner Bank. And I'm glad to be here today.
Hi, I can jump on. I am Maria Vigil. I'm the co-events chair on the MarCom board, as well as the events coordinator for the CCS Foundation. Hello.
Jumping in real quick. I'm Megan Kennedy with Rogue Heart Media, and just thank you guys for being as nimble as you've been to respond to all of the challenges right now. Dawn and team, you guys rock. Thanks for holding our hands through through getting you a presentation today.
Hi, I'm Mike Robinson, Rogue Heart Media.
Thanks everybody for the introductions, and thanks for rolling with the punches there. So today we're excited to introduce 4 award-winning local businesses to our virtual stage. The first business that we're going to introduce is Rogue Heart Media, who won this year's Blaze Award for Water Stewardship campaign.
So, should I say hello? I guess I should say hello. This doesn't feel awkward.
Hi, I'm Mike. In this
Water stewardship. You should totally zoom out, Mike. I can feel it.
Hello, I'm Greta Carlson with Rogue Heart Media, and today we're excited to talk to you about our Blaze Award-winning Water Stewardship campaign for the city of Spokane. This campaign was a lot of fun to work on. It was an ongoing campaign that we inherited through an RFP process, and we're excited to be continuing to work with the city in 2020 as well.
So the goals that we inherited along with the existing creative assets were things like overall water consumption reduction, the hope of increasing participation in some of the rebate programs, first and foremost the Spokanescape program.
Totally look up Spokanescape. I only learned about it last night and I was so excited. I hate how often people have to water their lawns. And I would love to just pull out all of our grass and just have a lot of herb gardens and then a lot of cobblestone and walkways, and the ability to reduce water use is, I think, my biggest incentive.
The Water Stewardship campaign was multifaceted in its approach, and it was unique in that we measured results not only in a digital context of measuring impressions, clicks, and engagement rates, but we also were able to measure actual human behavior changes and positive results in the community. We built social media pages to build an online presence, and we also integrated a targeted social media advertising campaign.
We took it from really being more of like a billboard-focused, broadcast-focused campaign to being something that was much more digital in the social spaces. We let a lot run through organic reach as we built the audiences up on Facebook and Instagram. Super rewarding to see the baseline set now in the digital space, to see where we can push it and grow it further into 2020.
We incorporated video and photography elements to share with the public and let them know that it's an option for them to be able to take advantage of the rebate opportunities and save water at the same time. We also leveraged digital radio ads so that we could target specific interest groups, age ranges, and geographic areas, since we wanted to focus specifically on City of Spokane water customers.
Throughout the scope of the work, we knew that we needed to stretch content and keep it fresh, relevant, and responsive for that entire summer and into early fall. So as far as an acquisition and production approach, it was much more run and gun, much more a volume game of how much output can we create for these channels.
We're at Spokane River Run. I love running because I get to see the nice river and I get to stick with all my friends. I'm excited for running because we get to have snacks in the middle. It's important to save water by taking shorter showers and fixing all the leaks you get, and also watering later because the river is super duper peaceful and nice.
Come join me in the community at the Perry Street Fair on July 20th and at KSPS's Fit Kids Day on August 2nd. Look for the City of Spokane water trailer and come fill up your water bottle, and we'll have a chat about saving water this summer. Hope to see you there.
We got to flex one of our core strengths, which is adaptability on this job, big time, because you never knew when the stories were going to arise or the opportunities would present themselves.
Give a wave, hey, behind the scenes.
We got the chance to run all over Spokane and visit, different neighborhoods from the South Hill to Eagle Ridge to North Side, and see a variety of our neighbors and ways that this was playing out in their lives.
We go into a lot of the shoots trying to be as friendly and casual as possible, and we're often working with people that have never been in front of a camera.
Do the wave.
Oh, nice.
Or nobody.
And so to be friendly, to be excited because of something that they've done, I think really brings out their true character and their nature, and it speaks well to the content that we create.
It's great to hear from, the people who write the programs, who greenlight the initiatives and hand out the checks and all that, but we really wanted to get out and talk to the folks who are actually passionate about these programs, implementing these changes to their landscaping, and advising others on how to do that in order to inspire folks to see the potential and imagine their own yards transformed in a similar way.
We didn't look any further once we found out about Spokanescape. Because it has the xeriscape drought tolerant plant program, which is exactly what we were looking for. We want to take out the grass. It all looks like it's going to come together quite well.
We did do a ton of demo work here before we could even get started. We had arborvitae in the front yard that needed to come out. So once the irrigation was in place, You know, we started kind of laying the bones of the place in. Patio was completed. Next thing we did was like the site grading, boulder placement, kind of creating these mounds out here, and then developing a dry creek bed. So doing the excavation for this, getting this shaped in. You spend a week out here putting one of these in, and you can walk away from it all year long. You know, just spend more time doing the things that you like to do.
I think people need to be aware of just the water use in the area and the fact that we're on water tables that are potentially going down. We got a lot of green here, and maybe there's alternatives to that.
It's a project that my wife has wanted to do for some time. She's very delighted, and as well as I am, with the process we've been through. Ben's been great to work with.
And they're safe to step on.
But step on it,
yeah, they're not as delicate as some of the
Our feeling is that this is a better way to use the water and use it in limited amounts. So yeah, we would recommend Spokanescape as a good program.
Year over year, the number of Spokanescape applications increased from 53 in 2018 to 132 in 2019, and the number of approved installations grew from 21 in 2018 to 33 in 2019. And that 33 was of 67 approved applications, so there might be more Spokanescapes in the works that took more than one season for a homeowner to complete, which is awesome and very encouraging.
This is this direction for the 14 feet, and this dash line is for this side, and that's... I am excited. I hope that this all works out because I've been wanting to do a waterless yard for quite some time.
I like the fact that one of the requirements is that you have to do this in a visible area so your neighbors can see it. You know, encouraging other people to kind of see what you're doing and see that it works.
There's some pictures on the next page that show.
Actually have a colorful front yard as opposed to just a plain lawn. I think it's cool to have some color in the neighborhood.
You guys have 840 square feet, and so that's going to qualify you for $420 because it's 50 cents a square foot. I look forward to seeing how it turns out.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool.
Yeah, I like your personal touches too.
It's always easier to tell stories when you truly care about the subject matter. And for our team, sustainability, water conservation, being responsible stewards to our natural resources, those are all things that just naturally struck a chord. So it's just been wonderful to watch the success and growth of this campaign, to see it's kind of validated our approach. You know, we believe very strongly in the value of very personal messaging, giving voice to our neighbors, truly. Like, in fact, we had shoots where we were literally on a different project, and we found that a neighboring home was getting ready to do a Spokanescape, and we had an impromptu interview. You know, everyone has a story, and this was a project that truly exemplified that truth, that we could go in any neighborhood in Spokane and find folks that this was a passion of theirs. So some of our favorite characters, Randy, who was the winner of the Water Smart Landscaping Photo Contest, was just such an incredible abundance of knowledge. Like, master gardener, had this incredible yard that he'd been spending just years kind of perfecting, and just was there to take a photo of him as our contest winner, but ultimately turned into a surprise and awesome video deliverable that we were able to share.
This was a labor for the last 7 years. My name is Randy, and welcome to my sanctuary. I took out all my grass, put in 5/8 minus gravel, put in what is known as crushed basalt for a walkway. I've got my vegetable garden over here. This particular plant here is called Princess Tut. Of course, I've got geraniums, potato vines, Rose of Sharon right here. Down here, you've got what is known as Siberian iris. When they're finished blooming, I cut the stem and it just looks like ornamental grass. My advice to the homeowner that wants to do something like this, be patient. If you fail, don't worry about it. Don't be afraid to experiment.
It was surprises like that that made this campaign just so fulfilling. You've got a ton of passionate individuals who are excited to share what they know and encourage others to make similar changes for the betterment of our entire community. Another one was who we affectionately refer to as the English landscaper, but his real name is Richard. He actually took us on a tour about the town, seeing some of his favorite installs.
I've been installing Spokanescape type gardens for at least 10 years in Spokane.
Yeah, that's good.
If done correctly, it really reduces the maintenance involved, and it's, I think, a lot more interesting. I started off working in London for a few years and then in Milwaukee. I arrived in Spokane and people have been coming to me and asking me to, reduce or remove lawn, and we all like lawn, but there's a time and place for it, And I think that a more plant-rich garden can be much more interesting for a number of things, beauty, obviously, privacy. You can cool your house down with trees and shrubs in the right place. You can make nicer areas for seating and hanging out. There's many benefits. I'm very happy that Spokanescape is there now for my clients for additional incentive to reduce their waste of water and to make their surroundings more beautiful.
We just got to see so many really intriguing designs and leaving inspired enough that now I'm installing my own Spokanescape this year, so we'll see how that goes. It probably won't look as good as Richard's, but.
Probably the most rewarding element of this campaign is the close partnership that we've developed with the client. Our contact over at the City of Spokane's Water Department trusts us. We work really closely and collaboratively together on all of the content, messaging, approach.
Kristen Zimmer is Aqua Girl. She is our client. She is our star. She is often the one we throw in front of the lens. If you go and watch any of our content, you'll find Kristen. She does a great Valley Girl impression, which is really fun too, so.
I'm with the City of Spokane, and I really love Spokanescaping. It's the best landscape.
To work with a partner that really understands our mission, believes in it, and knew how to connect in the community was invaluable. They brought so much to our mission and expanded it and made our Spokanescape program common household word and something to be desired. Rogue Heart gave me the confidence to pursue a whole rebranding suite so that we can modernize our look and give it a Spokane feel. They made it desirable and beautiful, achievable, and I couldn't have done that without them.
It was very exciting in 2019 to see the City of Spokane finally reach their water consumption goal for the first time in all of Slow the Flow's history. We saw a final number of about 16 million gallons used throughout the year, and that was 1 million gallons less than our goal.
So in 2014, we set annual goals of a 0.5% reduction of indoor consumption and a 2% outdoor consumption, and rarely ever met the outdoor goal. It was just extremely weather dependent. So meeting last year's goal was absolutely phenomenal. I'm so excited this year because we're going to have a lot more opportunities for customers to engage in our program and to make water efficient upgrades and just do more and learn more about their water and their habits.
The master plan for water conservation is currently open for public feedback, so there's a lot of ways that you can get involved in this process as well. Not to mention installing your own Spokanescape and getting a wonderful maximum $500 rebate on your water bill. Find us on Facebook and Instagram, engage with the Water Stewardship campaign, and thank you again for this amazing recognition. We just feel so privileged to be part of the MarCom community, and we thank you for your encouragement and support. Learn about the great work that our city is doing to help protect our river and make sure that we have an abundant aquifer that we can keep enjoying some of the best water in the world.
All right, well, thank you so much, Megan Kennedy and all the team at Rogue Heart Media. We'd like to give you a virtual round of applause. And kind of going off script a little bit, but instead of doing questions at the end of this presentation, I think what we'll do is open up for questions now. So if anybody has a question for Megan or anybody on the team that is on right now, please feel free to unmute yourselves and ask those questions now.
Megan, if I am
sitting here all sorts of inspired to see how I can utilize this with my own construction zone of a backyard. Would going to your website be the best way to find additional information, or what would you recommend?
Well, I would say that the city has done a great job of accumulating many URLs. So waterwisespokane.org is one of them. Spokanescape.org is another. So depending on how broad your interests reach, there's indoor and outdoor water consumption reduction tips. The Spokanescape program is interesting though, in that, like our friend Ryan said on screen, installs have to be in a publicly viewable space. So that you can inspire your neighbors and kind of share that investment that the city is helping you make through credit to your water bill, that it can hopefully inspire other yards to follow suit. So, but there's lots to learn and lots to take inspiration from for backyard spaces as well. The water department has actually put together a wonderful printed guide also that includes even like sample designs and a safe plant list for water smart and drought tolerant plant varieties that do really well locally. And then generally Spokanescape is a wonderful like turn of phrase to xeriscaping. So there's of course just a ton of information, Googling it to see what works in different regions, but they've done a great job translating it for our local region with Spokanescape. So we've of course bragged on them on our blog, but the best place is to go just straight to the spokanescape.org site. So thank you, Morgan.
Awesome. Well, I can tell you are very knowledgeable on the subject from your answer. So
I literally have my Spokanescape guide right here behind me. It was just sitting on the chair behind me, but what perfect timing. So it's fabulous. It's full of wonderful information and beautiful photographs.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what makes an award-winning team right there.
I agree. Well done. Thanks for jumping in.
So I was like, I can't believe it. It's right here.
Yeah, perfect. I will say we are excited to get to work on this the second year though. Last year just felt like a great warm up. I mean, as we said in the video, we had a lot of material that we knew we would be pursuing using their existing assets for the summer. So now this year it just feels like the launch has really started because we were able to give it that fresh look and continue to grow on the hard work of last season. So yeah, if you have any interest in Spokanescape or water stewardship in general, the social channels, follow along with us, join in the conversation. Great workshops and webinars. Greta took a helping hand in a lot of those at the start of COVID as their library workshops all had to go digital. So it's been a great partnership. So thanks again for letting us share about it this morning.
So we'll jump into the other presentation here.
All right, well, before we dive in, just wanted to give a quick explanation here as you guys might be curious. So we are at Hamilton Studio right now in North Kendall Yards. But behind us is actually the set for streaming the event for Vanessa Behan, the Vanessa's Promise fundraiser. So you can see a little bit about what that looked like in Hamilton's wonderful studio, just so if you were wondering about the adorable children behind us, there's backstory. Next, though, we want to invite Stephanie Regalado of Spokane Coeur Living, who won this year's Kindling Award for her Letter from the Editor column, to tell us a little bit about how awesome that award was.
Hello, I'm Stephanie Regalado. I'm the editor-in-chief of Spokane Coeur Living magazine. I have been in the industry for coming up on 19 years now, so it was fun to win the Kindling Award, which was kind of this fresh-faced sounding award when I'm kind of an old dog in the industry. Early in my career, I had an influencer in my intimate circle who told me that it was my duty as an editor speaking to my audience, that I was indeed an editor speaking to my audience. And it felt so forced. I had to think of what I was going to say to my audience. And over time I realized, and especially for Spokane Coeur Living magazine, most of our readers, about 60%, are female. They're right about my age, in the 30 to 50 zone, and I knew they were me. So in essence, I was speaking to me, and I could let go of all concern about what I was going to say and truly speak within the audience and share my heart. what were my goals, what are my experiences, what are my heartbreaks, what are my hopes for humanity. My main goal is to leave people moved in a fashion that makes them feel more connected to their community and also more responsible for the way in which they participate in that community, and also really reflecting on how we leave our mark on one another and taking great responsibility within that notion. I don't even think of myself as a writer. I think of myself as a storyteller, and that's really where I can get into it and really where I find joy. Whenever I have a moment where I'm not sure or I don't have a story, which seems odd within a month, 30 days in a month, you think I would find plenty of stories to write about. I will just hop out of my office, walk down to the streets of downtown Spokane, and walk around and take in humanity. One of my editor letters, choking up, was based strictly on about a 60-second interaction I had with a gentleman who was shirtless and shoeless, and he asked me if I had any cash, and I didn't. But I knelt down to him, and he reached out with his hand as a greeting. So I held his hand in my hands, and we just talked for a little bit, and I told him that I was sorry that I didn't have a way to help him in those moments. And it just blossomed from there because I took 60 seconds to look another human in the eyes, and there's so much that's transferred, and there's so much unspoken messages about humanity and our connections to one another and about ourselves when we take time to truly just look into the soul of someone else. Probably the biggest challenge of all in communication and being creative is getting in the way and trying to force something. Really, when we let it go and when we're raw and we're honest and we share from the heart and we slow things down enough that people can walk alongside us and experience the journey with us, it truly does bring that sense of community and so much honor to it that we can share in that with one another. I'm proud to have received this recognition, truly. This industry isn't always easy and it hurts a lot, but this has been so fun, so thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Stephanie, for that presentation, and shout out to Spokane Coeur d'Alene Living. If you guys haven't picked up one of those magazines, please do so and support that. I'd like to turn it over now. If anybody has any questions for Stephanie, she is on and would love to answer any questions that you have.
I have a question. That was such a powerful reaction at the end, and I'm just curious to hear, Stephanie, what some of those hard moments and hard lessons have been over your 19 years.
Oh boy. Most of the hard, I love the work. It's challenging. As an editor, I'll be really raw and honest here. I'm constantly fighting against the machine of advertising versus editorial integrity, and that wears me out. It's where I'm emotional, and this year has been particularly hard with sorry, I'm so emotional about this. But as challenges arise with business and it becomes more precarious of whether or not we're even going to put out a magazine, it just becomes harder for me to fight for the articles I know my readership desires, and it becomes trickier to find ways to bring value when I'm put in a position to make clients happy as well. So I'm not a news publication, so those rules aren't as strict. Like at the newspaper, sales is on one floor and the editorial's on another floor. And a magazine, we're like side-by-side offices having meetings together, people constantly coming to me to help them find ways in which to connect, which is my favorite part, really, is really building relationships and connecting, like I said, about the gentleman on the street and anywhere in life. All of my inspiration comes from those moments where we kind of feel one another and we get one another. And so I appreciate the opportunity to help my sales team see things not as a sale and as a way to bring value and to create relationship and build community. I did think I went off on a tangent there, and then just internal dysfunction of leadership. I think that cuts me to the core more than anything. So I might be wearing out. I might be to my end, honestly, about being in the industry locally. So we'll see. We'll see what's next. But thanks for humoring my rawness.
Okay. Did you want to read that off?
Thanks for sharing.
So it looks like we have a chat question. I'm unable to read it from my side. My eyes aren't as good as some. But I'm going to have Hannah, if she can, read that question off.
Dan in the chat asked, hi Stephanie, a question if you'd like to answer during this event. For your work, what are the keys to great storytelling that could be applied in marketing?
I have friends that joke with me that I'm an emotional manipulator, but it's another way of thinking about it. The key to storytelling really is to get down deep within it and share. There are times when I feel like I'm pushing something and then I have to remind myself, or if I'm interviewing someone or having a conversation, I'll ask them, how was your breathing while something was happening? So really pulling the story down to those very moments that it's unveiling with the emotion that's happening. And one of the pieces I wrote this summer was after my little dog had passed away very tragically, and I did not want to share that story about how she passed away. But as I was writing, as creatives know, it takes on its own shape if you're in the right space and you allow for it. And I just knew like I had to break my readers' hearts, like my heart was broken, and then rise up together. And I think that we have to honor the whole process with the notion that we're going to leave people with, bring them back up with us and not just smash them down. Because anything that I write about may be emotional, but at the end, there's always kind of like aha, like we get it. And fleshing out more and more about how much more connected we are than we are different and divided. I'm not sure if that really answers the question about storytelling, but really just being in the moment and speaking, like bringing your reader along with you versus telling them the story.
Hi. All writers have someone that inspires them, so I'm wondering, who are your favorite writers?
Right now, I think my favorite writers are, I've always loved Elizabeth Gilbert. I love Glennon Doyle. I love Brene Brown, of course. I'll read anything that Cheryl Strayed will put out. They're all very big names that everybody's familiar with. So I appreciate, and I guess I follow more female writers just by virtue of being female and that being my what I am attracted to, but how they write from their heart and kind of unveil a lot more about internal struggles and connections. I'm really big on breaking through shame, and so I throw myself under the bus more often than anyone else possibly can, because and people often say, you're so brave. It's not brave. It's not brave for any of us to really share our truth and our true stories. We only feel that it's brave because there's so many shame boundaries that have been built into humanity, I guess. So I'm big on, I don't actively push through them, just naturally.
We have a question from Clint. When is your book about your columns going to be released?
That's such a great question. I have been asked to pull a book together with my columns, and I think maybe that will be a project that I work on in the future. Right now, my book, I have an agent, and she's selling my book based on the column If They Only Knew, which I launched, I think 9 years ago in Spokane Coeur Woman magazine, and that's based on snapshot moments in a woman's life where she looks around her and realizes what the people around her would think if they only knew a particular truth that they have buried deep in their soul, or just something that they're struggling with. And it's based on a moment that I had when I was in the middle of a miscarriage and I was receiving a city proclamation on behalf of a nonprofit that I was running. And I was at risk for things to not go well with the miscarriage because I was in the middle of it. But I went to the city proclamation because the year before the city had offered the same proclamation, but they started their meeting earlier. So when I showed up and walked into the chamber, they're like, "Oh, we're sorry, you weren't here, so we couldn't give you the award." I mean, they passed it on to me, but I was so frustrated because that's, those moments are big in the work that we do. So this year, this happened several years ago, before the calm started, so like 10 or 11 years ago. I was like, there's no way I'm missing this opportunity. I was already losing a really big part of my life moving forward. So I went down there and I was pretty jittery, and I gave my little presentation, and then I stood in front of all the city council members. It was a full chamber behind me. And they started reading the proclamation, and all I could think of is if they only knew I had this little tiny lifeless fetus inside of me, and what I was going through. And when I went home that night, I reflected on how many people that showed up there that night, or any of us that show up in any moments, that have things that we're holding inside that people really don't know about, but they are true signs of courage and perseverance. So that's what that column was based on, and it's an anonymous column. I wrote the first one about the story of the miscarriage and the City Hall deal, and then I just put a call out, and I've received so many. So I have a book of 60 that it's being considered by some major publishers, and it's kind of exciting and dramatic at times through the ups and downs, but I have an agent, so she's handling most of that. So that'll be first, and then maybe my pesky little editor columns will come out in the future. Thank you, Clint, though.
Thank you again, Stephanie, so much for that, answering all those questions. We really appreciate it. All right, so last but certainly not least, we're gonna hear from our very own Lorna St. John of Hamilton Studio to talk about this year's Dussault Award winner with BHW1 for the End the Violence Public Awareness Campaign.
Hi, I'm Lorna St. John, producer, co-owner of Hamilton Studio. On behalf of BHW1 and Hamilton Studio, I want to thank MarCom for the honor of the Dussault Award for our End the Violence campaign. This all pro bono project came about in a most unusual way. It began with a request from Dana Morris of the YWCA. One of the WISE clients wanted to share her story to help warn others about domestic violence. This young woman, Nicole, had been attacked and nearly killed by her longtime partner and father of her children. For over 2 hours, our cameras captured Nicole sharing of what her and her children had endured at the hands of this man. But now that we had this asset, her compelling testimony, how would we use it? Dana pulled together an ad hoc committee to explore possibilities. That was the beginning of a social campaign to end the violence. Kim Pierman-Gilman was drafted to chair the committee, pulling in agencies, nonprofits, and community leaders, and we were off. But to where? After some deliberation, it was decided that Nicole's story could be the basis of a documentary exploring the prevalence of domestic or intimate partner violence in Spokane. We began shooting, talking to DV advocates, experts, law enforcement, and academia to try to understand and illustrate the problem in our community. Here, I need to point out that without the remarkable expertise of our editor, Hannah Sander, we could never have been successful. Like Michelangelo, from over 10 hours of interviews and B-roll, Hannah chiseled away everything that wasn't the story. In order to amplify Nicole's story, Dawn Hamilton directed reenactments of her dramatic attack and rescue, acted by volunteers from MAM Talent. Then a brilliant young intern, Seth Lohman, came out of nowhere and agreed to create an original score for the doc. But an audience was needed for the documentary to have any value, so Dana and Kim begged BHW1 to help put together a real marketing campaign. It's impossible to overstate the value and significance of what they did pro bono. Designer par excellence, Laurie Johnston, threw all her expertise into the graphic look, which so perfectly illustrates the feel of crisis. These graphics added so much to the documentary. The creative direction by Tony Hines molded the tone of the PSAs, print and outdoor, using whispering as a metaphor for the hidden nature of DV. MAM actors also volunteered for PSAs to be photographed for print and billboards. BHW1 rallied the media to donate, and they did. Newspapers, magazines, billboards, TV, and radio. The press releases yielded great coverage, and best of all, Russ Wheat convinced all the local television stations to broadcast the documentary at the same time, on the same night, a feat unheard of before. How Russ accomplished this, we may never know. The End the Violence documentary and awareness campaign is the most important work I've ever done, and the most significant work Hamilton Studio has ever participated in. I believe Russ Wheat and everyone at the agency would say the same. It was a privilege. As a footnote, the campaign continues. $340,000 has been raised to shore up the Domestic Violence Coalition to continue their work. Last month, we helped the coalition, along with Priority Spokane, with a live stream event to keep the public appraised of the ongoing work. Their work is essential because there is still need to end the violence. Thank you.
All right, thanks again so much to Hamilton Studio and BHW1 for that awesome presentation. And I believe that we have Dawn and Lorna here from Hamilton Studio, and I'm not sure, but we might have some people from BHW1 on as well. No? But if you guys have any questions, Dawn and Lorna will be more than happy to answer those for you.
I'm happy to jump in with a question. I would just love to hear how the response went to the major broadcast feat, as well as to the in-person events that had been hosted by the Y. Can you share a little bit about how the community responded?
It's an interesting thing to try to document what the response is, because what one would naturally hope is that instantly there would be less domestic violence, but we know that's really not realistic. So what we actually hoped for was that there would be more reports of domestic violence, because that would mean that people are paying more attention, that victims might feel that they have an access to resources and feel more comfortable coming forward. So the Sheriff's Department has reported that there has been some increase. There have been lots more outreaches to some of the agencies that help with prevention and with follow-up, helping victims go through domestic violence and come out on the other side. So the biggest actual consequence was just the community is thinking about this. The community is thinking, yes, we have a problem and we have to do something about it. And a lot of people with money in the community have come up with money to shore up this domestic violence coalition, which is a group of actual people who are working within the community to try to deal with this problem. Agencies, sheriff department, even parts the county agencies. So that's really the effect of it, and that's what would be hoped. And of course, eventually we hope that the number of incidences will decrease, but probably not for a while. Probably the reporting will increase, and we'll know that we're having an effect in that way.
Well done, and thank you on behalf of the community of what you put together and starting that conversation. And certainly with COVID and everything, it was helpful to see even the visuals for the campaign in the citywide mailings. And so your work continues to make an impact. So thank you again for that gift.
Thank you, Megan.
All right, well, thanks again so much for that presentation. That's really insightful. So at this time, we'd like to give kind of a final round of applause for everybody. We'll do our virtual round of applause. And I'm gonna hand it over to Morgan for kind of a final couple updates.
Yeah, so one thing I just wanted to take a couple of minutes to do that we normally do at the in-person Spark Awards, where we invite people up, there's lots of hugs and gifts, and unfortunately, we aren't able to do that this year. But I do want to say thank you. We have a couple of outgoing board members on the MarCom board of directors. The first one is Trisha Brunix. She has been on the board for over 4 years now, and done amazing things in her leadership role, and this year has been outgoing president. So she is going to be retiring and will be now an attendee to the events, and we are so grateful for your hard work, Trisha. So thank you. It's been a pleasure working with you. I'd also like to give a shout out to Brittany Bonanzino. She has been our co-events chair for the last several years and has done an amazing job working through, the Spark Awards. It's such a huge event, as well as helping us with this year's digital event here at Hamilton. So thank you, Brittany. It's been a pleasure working with you. And then I'd finally, but last and very much not leastly, would like to thank Meg Comito for her support over the last couple years as our internship chair. She has killed it and brought such quality candidates with our local organizations. So thank you, Meg, for that. I just want to make one final announcement and say that we have exciting news that Melissa Diaz has taken on the role of incoming president next year and will be helping to lead the organization as our programming chair next year and lining up a lot of really exciting events. We will be sending updates on our social media channels as to how those events will be delivered to you beginning in September. Hopefully we're fingers crossed for a little bit better situation in the world right in several months. But with that, we'll keep you updated. That's all from MarCom for this programming year. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you to everyone who helped us go digital the last couple of months and for all your flexibility with the Spark Awards and with joining our calls virtually. So thank you to everyone. Have an absolutely wonderful summer, and we will keep you updated as things progress. So with that, happy Friday.
All right, thanks everyone.